topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from top local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to experts in family law, association law, hearing loss, business brokers, home care, along with many other topics. Now here are your hosts, Steve-O and Sophia.
Good afternoon, California. Gosh, I got to get used to saying California now because we've been strictly the Los Angeles area. So now I get to say California, welcome to the Ask the Expert show. We have got a dynamite show for you today. I cannot believe I'm using the word dynamite. I just need to send our wonderful producer, I cannot believe I didn't send her the information. We do a trailer, which you can actually watch below, that gives who our expert is, information so you can reach out to them. And I've got that to her now. Okay, so we're in business. My next guest, I don't know the best way to introduce him now. He is the guru of weight loss. And I just really realized it today because we put out on Twitter for the first time, we're on Twitter, but for the first time we promoted on Twitter. And I was shocked as the amount of people who read that and said they've either heard of Dr. Gupta, been to Dr. Gupta, or a friend of theirs have been to Dr. Gupta. And that just doesn't happen very often. So let me introduce you. Did we lose him?
I'm still here, Steve.
There he is. Okay. So, oh, God, you just missed the greatest opening. So let me introduce you to the guru of a new way of life when it comes to losing weight, Dr. Gupta. Good afternoon, Dr. Gupta.
Good afternoon, Steve. As always, you're too kind.
You are, I got to tell you, I don't know, did you hear my opening about
I did. It was
Twitter?
Really sweet. I'm really excited about that.
We just did Twitter. This is the first time we're on Twitter right now, but this is the first time we promoted your show on Twitter.
Thank you for doing that.
And I was shocked. We've got to definitely have a much larger audience today, or people who will go back, because what's so great about our shows here is you can go back and listen to the show on either iHeart or YouTube. And we're going to start spending more time instructing you how to do this, because we've had some people say they couldn't find the show. Dr. Gupta, I got to tell you, I have got more respect for you than any of our experts, and I've been doing this for 12 years. You're not a weight loss doctor. You are a change of life doctor that just so happens including losing weight.
Yeah.
And the way you go about it, well, first of all, introduce yourself to everybody.
Sure. So, my name is Dr. Gupta. I started out in internal medicine, and then a few years ago, I got in this field called obesity medicine. So I've struggled with weight several times in my life. So it's very near and dear to my heart. But going through medicine, the traditional training, you're taught how to, like treat diabetes, hypertension. And whenever anyone talks anything about weight, it's like, oh, we can't do anything. There's so much nihilism around it, right? But this new field of obesity medicine is, seeking to change that. Like, we can actually do things. And the way to do that is by really, truly understanding the fundamental issue. Right? Because so much of the talk in the space is like, oh, you're doing something wrong. All you got to do is eat less and move more, right? You go to your doctor says you got to lose weight. But then that is just from there, what do you do from that? All patients are like, okay, I lose weight, but 70% of us struggle with this issue. So that's not working. So what we do is really come up with interventions that truly, truly work. And the only way to get that to happen is we got to start from the true biological understanding, which leads us to the self-compassion that is required, that we train people and we practice in to actually get this done.
Well, we had a picture pop up, and we tell you on our show, I mean, you are a genius. You brought Dr. Amit in. Dr. Amit is a pediatric emergency room physician. And what I guess I think it's so great is because it has to start at an earlier age.
Yes.
And it's like you guys have thought of everything. Good afternoon, Dr. Amit.
Hey, good afternoon, Steve. Always a pleasure being here with you.
We love having you on. You know what? You're a important part of the show for the parents that, it's so hard nowadays. As I've told you guys before, I've dated myself. I would come home from school, I'm out playing. Kids don't do that anymore. In fact, if you look at neighborhoods, you hardly ever see sidewalks anymore.
Yeah.
And the sidewalks is how we rode our bikes, skateboards, and ran. So what's happening is kids are sitting down a lot more than ever and getting heavy.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, we definitely want to focus on being more active, but one of the things that we have that's part of our program is it's not just about being more active. I mean, that's one of the components of it, but it's also being a little bit more thoughtful about what choices of food, what snacks you're going to eat, and how best to kind of optimize your intake and your calories.
Dr. Visser, how do you get a child to eat their vegetables?
Yeah. Well, that's always a challenge. That's always a challenge. I mean, I think what you have to do is, again, a big part of it is making sure that you're setting good examples for the kids. And you can always make it fun and creative. There's ways to, make the vegetables, cut them up into fun shapes that makes it interesting for kids to want to eat it. Sometimes maybe incorporating those vegetables in different dishes so that they're either blended in or almost hidden in something that a kid might like. So these are things that we kind of help families as we kind of work with them as a group or as a unit to help make sure that kids kind of achieve goals.
I'm going to do something today that I've never done on a show, and I've got both of you here. I want both of you to play host.
Okay.
And ask each other questions.
Interesting. Okay. So, I would like to just add on to that point that Dr. Mishra made, and then I'll ask him. I think the key point is that all of us, right, truly do want to be healthy, want to be well, right? There's a lot of things on top of that, right? Especially with kids, there's all of the addictive foods around us. As you said, the built environment, the video games, all of that, like all of that stuff is there, but at the core, people do want to be healthy. So getting people's buy-in, and that applies to adults and also kids, bringing them in as part of, the treatment plan, like figuring out what they want to do. that can actually work, right? And I think it's the same exact thing for adults, and that so often everyone's like told what to do. You go to somebody and they say, okay, do these 15 things and it'll be done, right? But that again does not work at all, right? So it's really starting from where someone is and figuring out what works in the context of their lives, whether there's an adult, a kid, a family, all of it, right? It's just that is the core of it. And that starts with having true empathy and compassion for people. And that's kind of, I think, our main difference, what we provide to our patients versus what I see out there.
Okay, so now you guys are going to ask each other questions.
Okay.
Never been done before.
Okay, so Dr. Mishra, why did you go into pediatrics?
So that's a great question. I think I was always destined to go into pediatrics. I come from a large family and always had younger siblings that I kind of helped take care of and help raise. And it was just a very natural fit to be able to kind of talk with children and care for children. And what interests me the most actually in pediatrics is kind of, how, we have to remember that we can't think of children as just mini adults. Their bodies are different. Their physiologic systems are different. And it just brings a very unique approach to, medicine. That's very different from adult medicine.
Definitely.
It's funny, I see Dr. Mitra with this little kid in a papoose having a stitch up the forehead. How many of those have you done?
Oh, quite a few. Quite a few. Yeah.
Doctor, we're talking about weight loss here. And I don't think people realize that, and I've learned it the hard way, there's so many health issues related to weight loss. I have sleep apnea. Who ever thought that weight would cause sleep apnea? And I think people don't, because we want to educate people here.
Yeah.
And I don't think people really know what weight loss, what weight gain does to your health.
Yeah, definitely. So sleep apnea is definitely one of the causes of weight, because as we have excess tissue around our trachea, our muscle tone decreases at night anyway. So if you have excess tissue, it actually closes off your breathing tube completely. And your mind is constantly waking you up throughout the night. So that's very dangerous, because basically multiple times every minute your brain is cut off from oxygen. So that also affects your heart, affects everything. It also affects your metabolism. It makes it harder to lose weight if you have sleep apnea. But otherwise you have arthritis, all the mechanical stuff, right, which you get from it, but also high risk, because as you have excess fat storage in your body, your subcutaneous, or the areas of your body that store fat underneath the skin, get full up, and then it goes into your organs. So then you have around your liver, and that's called fatty liver. And in fact, the number one cause of cirrhosis right now in America is fatty liver, not alcohol anymore. Then you have it around your heart. If you get it around your atria, then it has an increased risk of atrial fibrillation. You get an increase around your intestines, your colon, like everywhere in your body. But the advantage, one of the good things about what we do, is that actually, like when you lose weight, initially when you lose weight, you don't see it right away. And that's because that's kind of the last fat that goes on your body, but that's the first fat that comes out. So even 10 pounds, 15 pounds, 20 pounds is dramatically good for your health, right? Because of this visceral fat, that's what it's called. And these organs, that fat gets out of it, and it completely decreases your risk factor of so many diseases.
Dr. Vishkar, what health issues does being overweight for children cause?
So being overweight for children actually leads to many of the same issues that we see in adults. Unfortunately, we're seeing the best way to describe it is an epidemic in pediatrics with obesity. Right now, if you look at the latest CDC numbers, they say that almost 30% of children are in what we classify as an obese category. And an additional 20% of children are considered overweight. So that puts almost 50% of kids in this current day and age that struggle with weight or are overweight for themselves. Now, as Dr. Gupta mentioned, a lot of this excess fat that initially gets stored, you see it in the subcutaneous tissue, but then it starts to spread to the organs. And we're starting to see a lot of the same problems we see in adult patients. Now they're starting to spring up in pediatrics. We're seeing kids as young as 12, 13, 14-year-old that suffer from sleep apnea. We're seeing kids
suffer from sleep apnea?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Wow.
And you can imagine, right, they don't have the same muscle development. So even a little bit of extra weight or fat tissue can cause them to have those occlusions or blockages of the airway. We start to see kids that are being diagnosed with type 2 diabetes because they've built up now insulin resistance. And some of these kids are having to go on to medications such as metformin or get insulin shots. We're seeing kids that have high cholesterol levels because they're eating unhealthy diets. And, it's unfortunate that, these diseases that were traditionally thought about as something that you see in middle age with people that have bad diets or are unhealthy, we're seeing this now in the teenage population, which is very, very troubling.
I want to ask both of you your feelings on, and I just lost the word now, hormones. Now, Dr. Gupta, hormones are important too, right?
Yeah, hormones definitely, like for women who are perimenopausal, for instance, the hormonal change causes, changes in metabolism and everything. And, you have hormonal different elements, and some people have underlying, like hormonal imbalances that can cause some of this stuff. I think that, like, a lot of times, though, the areas of intervention, though, are still going to be some of the basic interventions that we advise in, right? There's a lot of stuff that impacts this stuff, but really, the things we can do are, work on how much we eat, what we eat, sleep, stress, and physical activity. Those are kind of the 5 buckets that we arrange all our treatment plans around. And so there are a lot of other stuff, but I'm skeptical of a lot of things, that are out there that say they can do something that can affect weight necessarily.
Well, the reason why I ask is I read an article and it talks about getting the hormones from saliva or blood work. And I was curious as to which one do you see being better?
I guess it depends on the test, probably the blood work, but it depends on, the saliva will definitely be less accurate, but I'm not sure if you can point me that article, I can look at the specific thing they're talking
about. Yeah, it was really a good article. And I got to tell you, Dr. Misra, that you have to deal with a lot of, I guess, psychological when it comes to kids, because kids can be really strong-headed, so to say. Mm-hmm. And there's things they just don't want to do. And how do you get through that? How do you break that barrier with kids?
Well, I think the most important part, and I don't think that this holds just true for kids. I think it also, there's a pretty good amount of this with adults as well.
Oh, adults are like that too.
Absolutely. I mean, I think some adults are just as stubborn and strong-willed as children. But I think the biggest thing is kind of building a rapport, making sure that the child feels safe. They feel comfortable sharing kind of details about their health and about their bodies. And once you're able to kind of build a safe, relationship and environment with the patient, and again, I think it goes for adults just as much as it goes for children, you're able to start to help, start to nurture or guide them to making better decisions, And I think one of the things that we focus on within our program is that we don't need you to be 100% perfect all the time, right? It's just having the mind, the thoughtfulness or the mindfulness of making better choices and wanting to make better choices. And you have to remember, weight loss isn't something, or weight gain isn't something that happens overnight. You don't just wake up one morning and all of a sudden are 10, 20, 30, 40 pounds overweight. It happens progressively. And we have to remember, we have to give ourselves that same kind of amount of respect that it's going to take some time to kind of take all of that extra weight off. So I think as we build those relationships, we can help guide and coach patients to achieve their health goals.
Well, we know stress causes weight gain. So how do you deal with that versus Dr. Gupta with an adult patient versus Dr. Misra with the children?
Sure. Just to add, also, I think, another point is respect, right? Respecting our patient population, what they think, and going on what is like possible within their lives and practice. Like, people are going to fail often, right? Because this is hard. This is legitimately hard, right? So, like, going with that. But I think also, in terms of your other question, in terms of stress is one of those 5 buckets that definitely impacts with calories, without. Adults, definitely, we have busy, stressful lives, and it is a key part. But again, it's working out where are those levers we can pull and push on that can help, is there some like organizational technique? And again, what we tell with our patients is nothing off the table, right? And I had an example of a patient who she worked, I forgot if I shared this before, but she was like, she was working for this company and she was like answering calls all night or whatever still. But, I told her, like I said, like, send an email to your boss, because I work for a big company. People will like do things unless someone like speaks up for themselves, right? Like, if a boss is like managing someone and something's happening, then no one's going to say anything. So she sent an email, like, that was part of our discussion, and she sent it, and they said, oh, I didn't even know you were doing that, because she wasn't even getting paid for that. So she stopped like having to do that. It improved her sleep. It like drastically improved her weight. And it's just like, all of these factors are possible, right? All the structural things that we work and we brainstorm to try to help improve.
Dr. Arista, what do you do?
Yeah, for kids, it's very much the same thing. Obviously, the stressors that children have in their lives are very different. I mean, a lot of it can stem from school issues. A lot of it stems from social issues, especially as you start, going into the middle age. Peer pressure and social interactions. And, a big component also is kind of the household and the family dynamic, right? So you got to make sure that kids are in a safe home environment as well. But I think, again, we focus on making sure that if there are stressors within any one of those facets of their lives, that we allow or we provide them with some techniques to, help with that. Again, I still remember my mom when I was younger would say this, that, at times you're going to feel upset and you're going to feel angry. Best thing to do is count to 10 backwards, right? And give yourself that few moments to kind of just let your mind kind of process everything that's going on. And again, something as simple as that, or we do some great breathing work with a lot of our patients. Utilizing those things will actually help bring the stress hormone or the levels down. One of the things when I was in training a number of years ago at this point is that we actually looked at patients or kids that were in the ICU setting, and kind of speaking to some of the hormone things that you were talking about there, Steve, is we actually had a program, a pet therapy program within our ICU. And what we did is we actually measured cortisol levels, which is a stress hormone in the bloodstream. We would actually measure it through saliva. And then we would bring in a therapy animal and allow a child to interact with that therapy animal for about 10 to 15 minutes. And then would retest the levels on these kids through their saliva. And what we saw is that there was actually a very dramatic decrease or downfall of these levels. So again, even very small stress relief that works for each patient differently, but every little small amount of stress relief that you can provide, that will then help your mind kind of reset itself. And then overall, in terms of your health, it will improve that. It won't make you feel like if you're in a stress situation that, hey, I should go, I don't know, eat that donut because that makes me feel better. Because that's what we're primed to do, right? We have these great, amazing foods that are available to us at all times. And that's what we are utilizing as our stress relief right now, many of the time. But we can make better choices.
Well, we just did the fastest 25 minutes in TV and radio. For all those who've tried with no success, who've thrown up their arms, you haven't experienced yet mindful weight loss. You have nothing to lose. I'm telling you, this is the only, I guess, the only expert. Well, actually, today both of our experts, they're the only one I've endorsed. I want you to try it. We will be giving you new instructions how you can find past shows. Guys, thank you so much.
Thank you, Steve. You're awesome.
We love having you on. And hey, Dr. Gupta, I'll be speaking to you later.
Yeah, for sure. I'll just tell my leave the number real quick. It's 310-220-4543. Again, 310-220-4543. It's mindfulweightloss.com. Reach out for anything.
We're going to go to break. We come back. We've got our next expert, Barry Fowler.
Thank you, Steve.
Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, guys.
And we are back with the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV with your hosts, Steve-O, Sophia, and their expert guests.
And we are back. I guess we lost our expert again. That never happens twice. And there we go. Well, sorry to come back. We'll wait for him. I know there he is. There he is. Good afternoon, Mr. Fowler. Welcome to California. Ask the Expert.
Pleasure to be here with you. I appreciate it, Steve-O.
How is the weather in Houston?
Frightfully hot. That's all I can say.
Oh.
It's I told my wife I was going to go out and see the cows and the chickens, and I said I'm going to walk through hell to get out there. So my wife looked at me and went, and I said, it's hotter than blazes. Come on, you know that.
Well, Barry, this is I don't know if it'll surprise you or not. I have spent my entire day watching Ken Paxton. Entire day.
Hey, I haven't watched it at all, so I don't know what's going on. So
that's the attorney general they're trying to impeach.
Yeah,
so
I know that part, but I didn't watch any of it.
So that's what I've been doing today, and I didn't know that the owner of our station we used to be on is heading that up. Anyway, let's get to tax resolution. I just want to get Rebel, make sure that we've got all the information. So for those of you who would like to call Barry, you can do it right from the screen. There we go. Okay. Let me introduce you to Barry. Barry Fowler. We have been doing business for probably, I would say, 10, 12 years. And what's been so amazing about Barry's company, which is Taxation Solutions, is we're probably in 12 cities. And we have other tax resolution experts in other cities. So I do a lot of research when it comes to tax resolution. And I cannot tell you how many negative letters, and mostly not getting back with them, making big promises that never happen. I have never seen that with Barry Fowler. And I also see that these companies go out of business real fast. And like I said, Barry's been in business for a long time, but he is the president and founder of Taxation Solutions. He's what's called an enrolled agent. He's licensed to represent taxpayers before the Internal Revenue Service. His experience in tax and finance industry spans over 30 years. Barry is the expert. I mean, the expert when it comes to tax relief. Barry, I'm so glad we have you because I trust you so much.
I'm glad we're here with you, and I'm glad you invited us out to California and be able to talk about tax relief and tax resolution. And Some of the most disheartening companies have come out of this area in California out here. To me, being in this industry, we take pride in that. What we do, we're going to stand behind what we're going to tell you up front and how we're going to talk to you and what kind of resolution we're going to be able to get for you. We ask people all the time, hey, don't just tell us what you owe and what you think. Let's talk about exactly, what you have and what your ability is to satisfy this debt, whether it's a payment plan, whether it's non-collectible status, whether it's partial pay, whether it's an offer in compromise even. We need the information from you to be able to make a decision and tell you, hey, this is where we can go with it. And then actually we go through and do a complete analysis to check and see, maybe you don't owe the money. Maybe the IRS is wrong. And that happens quite a bit. Maybe there's other ways to fix it that are not expensive, that would be more beneficial to you. So we're going to look at every single option. We're not just saying, hey, just because you want the pipe dream, you're going to have it. You're going to get what you actually can afford, what you can do, and what the best deal it is we can get you with the IRS using our proprietary software to do that analysis. And it works out really, really well for our clients.
Well, I brought this up for the first time on our Houston show. Barry, his company is based in Houston. But it doesn't matter, though, because it doesn't matter what part of the country you're in. Barry's office can handle your situation. But I brought up how we sent a friend of ours to Barry, and it was amazing. She was so happy, and Barry couldn't even really help her at all. But he was honest enough to tell her that you don't need our services. And I just thought,
what it came down to is what the amount was. We gave her the solution, how she could solve the problem herself, and talked her through it. Rather than paying us to do something that she could do on her own, and it really wasn't worth what we would have to charge to be able to go through and do it. So, we really, wanted to help her out, just like we do everybody else. We want to help you out, and we're going to find a way. And that's why, if you call our number 877-996-6477, you get that free consultation. If we can't help you, or if what our services are going to be too expensive for you to be able to see some good results and actually benefit you, because we go through that cost benefit analysis. Is it really worth you using somebody to do this? If we're not going to be able to put a really, really good solution in place, we're going to tell you, and then we're going to talk to you about it and explain it to you and give you, exactly what you're looking at, as opposed to other people out there. You're going to call them and they're going to say, yeah, we can get you an offer in compromise because that's what we advertise for, and it's going to cost you X number of dollars. And you get in there and you start working with them, you find out that sales guy lied to you. He sold you the pipe dream, but you wanted it, so it didn't matter what the truth is. And there's a lot of people that call us and we'll tell them point blank, you're not going to qualify for that offer in compromise you think you are. And, we need to go this route. And they'll say, well, XYZ company over here, they gave me the solution and I can get an offer in compromise. You're not going to get it. Trust me. This is exactly what you're going to be looking at and what you're going to pay. But you got to be brutally honest with us and tell us, hey, this is what I've got in the bank. This is how much money I make, right? Retirements, house, the whole works, in order for us to be able to tell you exactly everything you're going.
Barry, let's talk to that person who gets the letter from the IRS and they basically freak out and they put that envelope in a drawer thinking if they can't see it, they can't harm them. Let's talk about that person who's in denial and doesn't want to do anything about it. What could happen to them?
Well, you're in denial. It's in the trash can. There's nothing that's going to happen to you, right? You're protected. Shut the lid and it stays there. That letter is just a precursor.
Never gets opened.
It's a precursor to everything else that's going to happen. So, the first letter you get is usually pretty harmless. It just says you owe money. The second letters generally will come back to you and say, we have an intent to levy you. You better do something to put a solution in place. That one gets ignored. You're going to then get a certified letter that nobody goes and picks up and signs for anymore. But that certified letter is their final notice of intent to levy. You will be levied in about 30 to 45 days, almost guaranteed. Once they have that filed, they can levy you at any point in time they want, because you've already been given that letter certified. Whether you picked it up or not, it doesn't matter. Whether you open the letters or not, it doesn't matter. The IRS will proceed with their collections and every alternative they have for those collections. Now, most people, hey, sometimes it just doesn't happen that way, and they get that certified letter and nothing really happens. It doesn't mean it won't happen somewhere in the future. Right. Generally, you'll end up getting, if it's a large enough amount, assigned a revenue officer, and then that revenue officer, if you don't do anything, will take drastic actions. And it's even sometimes when we're working with you, if you won't respond to us and you won't respond to the demands that the revenue officer is making on us and help us get that information, they're going to go down that same rabbit hole. They're going to send that notice again and levy you. And, there's no stopping it. So, you've got to be actively engaged even with us in helping you solve your problem. It doesn't mean, hey, you hired us, it goes away. No, it means you hired us. You got to be actively involved so we can get the solution in place. And that's what we tell people right up front. You got to be active with us. You got to help us help you. It's kind of like that movie, Show Me the Money. Well, you've got to do your part as well to be able to get that money. Well, to get that solution, just be active. Help us out. Help us help you.
Barry, talk to that person who thinks that they can take care of this themselves.
Being out here on a ranch at times and working here, I think I am the greatest DIY, do it yourself. It doesn't always work that way here in tax resolution, because when you're talking to the IRS, it's really different. They're not your friend. They're not there to help you. They're out there hiring 80,000 new IRS agents, which means they don't know their head from their rear end.
Right.
Or in here in Texas terms, out here in the ranch, you don't know your cattle from a donkey. And, when you're helping yourself, sometimes you're the donkey and that guy is, trying to lead you completely astray and you follow. But, they ask these, simple questions, and some of them are kind of mindless. So you don't think anything of it, but they are leading questions. They're questions to find out, where everything is. And when you answer something, just because you think it's the right answer, it may have been the wrong answer, the wrong way to answer it. And now it leads you to a full pay installment agreement. Well, good luck. Do you have the money to make those payments? The IRS agent's going to say you do. And they're going to tell you, hey, cut this out, cut that out. It doesn't really matter. You can only do these certain things. When you hire us, we know how to answer those questions. We know how to get around it. We know how to give them the answer that gets you the better deal, not the answer that they just want you to say so that you full pay them. And so that's where it comes in. And then when you talk to them and then you hire us, we're like fighting against them reading the Bible, because whatever you said is like written in stone. It's like on the stone tablets of the 10 Commandments. It can't be changed, Right. The IRS agents.
You can't do do-overs with them.
It just makes it a little bit harder because they have it etched in stone, and we're now trying to get the chisel and hammer out and rewrite those commandments and those things that they wrote down and get you through that solution. And that's where, we come in.
Barry's a great storyteller. And one of the stories I love that Barry tells, and this will shock probably a lot of people, he actually has agents that Barry knows the laws better than they do. And he has to correct them on the laws. And they got all these new agents out there. Can you
Well,
imagine?
Steve, well, we have fun. I mean, I have fun. I have trained a number of enrolled agents that have come through and worked for us and gone off either into their own business and stuff, which we're very proud of. The fact that we have great people that we have working for us and have worked for us in the past. And so when we start dealing with these IRS agents, there's agents that we're just talking to them and trying to figure out, hey, where are you going to go? And we go through and they'll start telling me I can't do this. And I'll go, well, wait a minute. In the Internal Revenue Manual section, so-and-so, it references this, and we can get this payment plan, or we can get them in non-collectible status. Or the last one was, no, you don't really represent your client, and the client has to come in and meet with us because we're going through this audit. And I went, sir, I am so sorry, but you are completely wrong. Once they sign that 2848 and we get it in, I step into the shoes of the taxpayer. I am now representing that taxpayer, and anything I do is on their behalf, and therefore they don't have to come in. And he went off on me. And in all the years I've been doing this, and it's been close to now 40 years that I've been in the tax business, that I've never had a revenue officer go after me or a IRS agent sit there and blatantly yell at me and scream at me. And I told them the conversation is completely over. And I ended up talking to his manager, and the manager goes, well, you're completely right. And he is completely wrong. And we will get this taken care of. And, we go through that. We go through, those kind of things that with these new agents and even some of the other ones that have been around for 4 or 5 years, we're teaching them what's in the Internal Revenue Manual, what you can do as a taxpayer, how we can represent you, the deals that we can put forth. And it's just amazing. And 80,000 new ones, it's just going to get worse. Not to mention, you also have these private collection companies out there who every time we ever deal with one, all their job is to get money for the IRS. It's even worse than the revenue officers. They don't want to listen. They don't care. They're going to set up a full pay payment plan. We can get that back into the IRS and get it through the right channels and actually work out the deal that you guys actually deserve when you do owe the IRS money, and get you into the solution you can actually afford.
I think one of the other things that's so great about your business is once somebody signs up with your company, Barry, they no longer have to talk to the IRS anymore. That's all on your shoulders now.
Yeah, see, I got big shoulders, so we carry that weight pretty easily. All of our clients.
But what's the deal with the guns, Barry? I don't understand that one. That they can now carry guns.
But we're not allowed to carry guns in there.
Yeah.
I sometimes you're amazed at the advertising and the jobs that you're going to put these people in, and thank God that most of our correspondence and stuff is via phone, and that we don't have to go in and meet with some of these people because I probably couldn't control my facial expressions and saying what I really want to say, to them. I control it over the phone, and there's a nice little mute button, so I don't have to verbally say anything to them while I'm listening to them ramble on. But somebody carrying a gun as an IRS agent, there were always a few of them that did, but those are usually the investigators for something major criminally wrong. And we definitely don't like to deal with them. And when you're dealing with somebody that's actually going through, one of those investigations, we'll actually pass them off to a attorney that's going to handle the criminal side, because that's what it usually is a criminal investigation. We don't want to get into talking to you. If you've got a criminal investigation, we want to get you to an attorney that can actually step into court and represent you in that criminal court. So if you do have somebody with CID coming out there, if you call us, we'll get you a referral over to a good attorney that can represent you as well. But like I always said, you can check us out at taxationsolutions.net. I know we can see it here scrolling on the screen, but those on the radio, Again, it's taxationsolutions.net, or you can reach us 877-996-6477. And I know this is podcasted, so you can listen to this again and you get all some really good information on everything that we do here with Ask the Experts and everybody else that's on these programs. I was listening to weight loss, and yes, I need to lose some weight. So,
well, on for example, iHeart, which is our partners, you can go to iHeart and put in their Ask the Experts Houston tax relief, and you can pull up all the past shows. Same thing with I'm trying to think the name of Spotify is another one, big one. So you can always go back with Barry. I'm glad he brought this up. You might have a friend in New York who is having tax problems, and you've got somebody who's really, really good. Barry can work with them. It doesn't matter where they live. And so you can pass along Barry's phone number. Now, I've already passed along a gentleman who owns a restaurant in Fort Lauderdale, who's in a lot of trouble because he hasn't paid his taxes, employer taxes, which is dangerous. And he hasn't called Barry yet. And I'm so upset because he can't handle this himself. There's no way.
And Steve, well, that's one of the things that we've got to talk about on these programs is businesses and the business taxes, yes, payroll taxes, worker classifications. It's something that, I just did a huge seminar on it just today, in talking about the issues with payroll taxes and businesses, how it can shut you down, how it can affect not just you as a business owner, but your managers and everybody that signs on those checks. So we got to do a whole show just based on
this
that.
On a business.
And
absolutely.
And we work with
Barry
people.
Will be back with us again next month. And we've gotten 3 people who wrote and said, what a great show. And you can catch Barry's show in Houston if you'd like. He's on the last Friday of each month. Barry, give everybody the phone number and the website.
All right. It's taxationsolutions.net. Again, taxationsolutions.net. 877-996-6477. 877-996-6477. Hey, Steve, the other beauty about this program is if you go and find it, you can also find it on YouTube, and you can play it on your TV on the big screen and see how good Steve is. we were doing it for family. It was quite fun, and I said, "Hey, look, I'm on TV," and we put that up there. So it's really, really cool. So and all these great programs that Steve does here at Ask the Experts TV. It's fantastic, both on the radio and there on YouTube.
Now you know why I say I love this guy, Barry. Stay safe. We'll see you soon.
All right. I appreciate it. Thanks, Steve.
We'll be back with you next week with more Ask the Experts.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Experts show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.